Some years ago, early in his pontificate, Pope Francis made a simple statement that got a lot of attention. Okay, he made many statements that got a lot of attention. He's the Pope after all. But one comment in particular really caught the attention of not just the faithful, but others as well. He made it in response to a question from an Italian journalist who was conducting an interview for the magazine. When asked who he was, that is, asked to sort of describe himself, the Pope responded very simply and directly, "I am a sinner." And those who subsequently heard or read what the Pope had said were affected in many different ways. But the overwhelming reaction, at least from my perspective, was not what you might have guessed. You see, it seemed to me that the most common reaction to those four simple words was complete surprise. Now, of course, that wasn't the reaction of everyone. Many people were sort of stunned by what he said, and not because they disagreed with him or what he said. That wasn't it at all. It was the fact that he actually thought it, said it, and as far as anyone could tell, sincerely meant it. And people found that tremendously refreshing, so unexpected, something they couldn't really remember any popes saying before, although of course some certainly had or had said something very similar. I mean, just look at the epistle of St. Peter. And that being the fact that it was the first thing the Holy Father mentioned about himself when asked that question, I think that really gave it its punch. And people were filled with surprise, complete surprise. I was really glad that he said it and really proud of him in that moment, for lack of a better word. At some level, when the Pope speaks, he speaks for all of us, showing the face of the entire Catholic Church in the world. And he got it right in this moment. He really did. Yet the reaction of surprise by many Catholics and non-Catholics alike got me wondering about something related to what he said. You see, in all honesty, it made me a little sad and disappointed that for many people, this was an odd sort of occurrence. They didn't see this often, if ever. People, and particularly people in high places, simply didn't talk like this. They really weren't used to people, and in this particular case, a person of great faith being so humble, so vulnerable, so honest and transparent. What a shame. Seriously, what a shame. Is true humility really that rare in our society? Is it that rare in our church leaders? Is it rare in our workplaces and homes and schools? Is it rare in this holy place, in this very church, in these very pews? Put simply, is it rare in you and in me? Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own? So says Jesus to his disciples in today's gospel passage. The image he paints is truly a powerful one, particularly in the way he uses a splinter to represent the fault of someone else, while choosing to use a wooden beam to represent the fault of the one doing the judging. And what also makes these words powerful is the fact that many of us, if we really take an honest look within ourselves, can see ourselves in the very people Jesus is admonishing in today's gospel. So many of us do the very thing that Jesus has a serious problem with. We put people down. We criticize people. We point out their faults. We gossip. We judge. It's as if we are saying that other people are the ones with the problems, other people are what's wrong with this world. If only other people could see how far they fall short, see what they need to change. If only other people. And that's where we can really learn from Pope Francis. You see, none of what we say we believe in faith makes sense if we don't feel our own personal need to change, our own personal need to be healed, our own personal need to be guided, to be comforted, to be forgiven, our own need to be saved. That's where faith begins, in the realization that we are indeed broken, that we are wounded, that we don't have all the answers, and that we cannot make it through this life on our own. And ultimately, we can't get into heaven by ourselves. We need God. We need a Savior, and we also need each other. Not in some general sense, but in a very real, concrete way. A God who wants nothing more than to help us be more and love more. To change the world, we first have to change ourselves. Or to state it in a more concretely way, we need to allow our God to change us from within. And that starts with admitting, with complete sincerity and honesty, that we need God desperately. Not just to start things in motion, not just to plop us down on this earth, but to sustain us and guide us and forgive us and make us whole day after day after day. My friends, there is a lot that is wrong with this world, a lot that is broken, and each of us contributes to the world not being the beautiful place that God created it to be. Not in some small, insignificant way, not in some tiny splinters that don't really matter that much, but rather in big ways, as men and women who make choices which sometimes harm people and harm relationships and many things around us. May each of us truly want a better world and not simply look to others to make it happen. Instead, let's take the critical first step and admit, I am a sinner. And as we make that first statement, the church gives us a beautiful opportunity that's starting up this week to enter into the desert as that sinner, to prepare our hearts for renewal, for a complete change, to allow a merciful God to forgive us our faults and our failings, to remove the beams from our own eyes that we can more clearly see God's goodness around us. This holy season of Lent, of self-denial, is the perfect opportunity for us to get right with God and in turn, right with one another. There will be many next week who will be admitted into the elect of God, who are preparing for the holy sacraments of baptism, confirmation, and Eucharist at the Great Vigil. For these members of the RCIA, it's an intense time of preparation to receive these holy gifts. They are preparing to, some of them for the first time, to declare their loyalty to Christ in their baptismal promises. All of us, though, are in preparation with them, for at the Easter season, we are given the opportunity to once again renew our alliance with God through the renewal of our own baptismal promises. Let's not waste the time that's ahead of us on things that really don't matter, but to put all that time, that reflection of our own hearts in light of the teachings of Christ, and get right with God in the areas that we need to be made whole again, admitting that we are sinners, but not stopping there, but allowing God to help us to become saints.